Dear Diary, my name is Austin, and I am 10. My birthday is in July, so it's ages until I am 11. I got you for Christmas. I was not happy at the time. I mean, while other boys get sports things, iPads, cell phones, games, and fun things, all I got was you. To be honest, I think Mom and Dad forgot my present, as when I looked for my package, they were staring at each other, whispering, "I thought you would buy it." Then Mom got up and went to her room, and after a lot of noise and swearing, she came with you. I threw you under my bed in disgust. I feel bad on how selfish and spoiled I was at expecting great presents. I am sure God meant that I would get you for a reason. I decided that I would use you and make the most out of it. I understand my parents do not have time to buy a present. They are executives at some bank, and work is very important for them. I am their only child. I think after they got me, they decided that they were too busy to have other children. Sighs. It would be nice having a small brother, as I have no friends. I do not know why. I am very shy at times, and I really do not like sports. They also tease that the skater hair I have is a decade out of fashion. I am the only boy that has hair to his shoulders. Mom and Dad are extremely busy, and even when they are home, they have their laptops open and they constantly tap away at them. Once in a while, they would smile at me. They never have time to play. All in all, I am a quiet boy that knows my parents love me, but do not have time other parents have. I am grateful that I have parents that do love me. Tuesday, January 3rd. Dear Diary, today we had a visit from Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. They are an elderly couple that moved in next door. Mom and Dad found the visit an inconvenience as they were busy. Dad got a promotion in November, so this meant he had to work. The Johnsons are nice, but it's a shame they have no child. When they seen me, they thought I was a girl, which was embarrassing. After that, they were nice, like as if they were my grandparents. It was funny watching Mom and Dad. They tried to be polite, but I could see Dad look at the clock all the time. Wednesday, January 4th. Dear Diary, I am not so happy today. Mom and Dad are over the moon with happiness because Mom got a promotion. It means less time for me and more tapping at laptops. I will pray that I am not so selfish and happy that my mom and dad are a success. Friday, January 6th. Dear Diary, today was strange. We actually had dinner around the kitchen table together as a family. Mom and Dad were not reading or working. We actually talked. To be honest, we did not talk a lot, as Dad and Mom never know what to say to me. Talking about interest rates and loan risks are easy for them, but they simply do not know what a 10-year-old talks about. Mom told me her job meant she will be home at 7 p.m. every day, and this means I need a babysitter. The Johnsons offered to do it, which is very generous of them. This means I have to go to their house after school, and sometimes at weekends. I felt my eyes well up with water, and begged them that I could take care of myself. Dad told me to be a man about it, and not cry over such a small thing. Saturday, January 7th. Dear Diary, Mom worked at home today. She must have thought I was in the way, as in the afternoon she told me I should take a nap. I refused, as I did not take naps since I was 6. Monday, January 9th. Dear Diary, today was the first time I was babysat by the Johnsons. When I knocked at the door, the both answered and were so happy seeing me. Then they gave me cookies and milk and sat down with me while I spoke with them. They talked about how my day was at school and if I needed help with my homework. Mrs. Johnson said my hair was a bit too long, but was worried it was getting in my eyes. I was very shy as usual. In my defense, I was not used to being the center of attention and 2 people showing an interest in how my day was. It was like I had no time to be by myself, and I was not used to this. Mrs. Johnson asked me if I was uncomfortable. I explained that I was not used to so much attention. She told me my parents worked very hard, and career people often did not have time for their children. They often did not have time to ask how their child's day went. Mr. Johnson said I could feel at home there. They had money but did not have to work, so they were honored I would spend time with them. I was to consider their home as my home. Mrs. Johnson came over and gave me a hug. This shocked me, and I clumsily let her hug me. She told not to worry. She knew my mom and dad loved me and gave me lots of hugs. I looked at her with a tear in my eye. My parents never hugged me. After that, I went around to explore the house. They had nice things, and the house was like any house grandparents would have. I looked at a painting over the fireplace. It was a picture of a girl that was in a pretty petticoat dress. She had pigtails and a pretty face. She was the same age as me, which was a bit strange, as she had a pacifier in her hand. Mr. Johnson told me she was their daughter. I had about 50 questions, but they changed the subject. The rest of the time was used when they gave me a coloring book. I didn't use one of these since I was 7. I was polite and started coloring flowers and rainbows. It was quite fun. When Mom came to pick me up, I sprang and gave her a hug. She looked embarrassed and politely pushed me away, trying to make some excuse to what got in me. Mrs. Johnson sighed. Wednesday, January 18th. Dear Diary, I should be better in writing, but I feel like one day is like another day. I still am being babysat by the Johnsons. I like them now, and I am no longer shy. I actually look forward to visiting to them. Today was no different. When I visited them, they were waiting at me and had cookies and milk waiting for me. I told them about the day. They always thought it was strange when I said I had no friends and was a bit of a loner. I had tears in my eyes, and Mrs. Johnson put a pacifier in my mouth. I spit it out, saying that I was not a baby. Maybe it was a joke, as adults do have a strange sense of humor at times. They started talking to each other how carefree a baby is of any stress or peer pressure. Mr. Johnson said he wished sometimes he could be a baby and someone take care of him. It would not matter if he had friends or not. Mrs. Johnson said she would rather take care of a baby, not matter how old they were. I did not say much as I found the whole conversation weird. Why would anyone want to be a baby? Maybe it would be nice to have someone to give me lots of attention, and I wouldn't have to care that no one at school liked me. Still, the thought was very strange indeed. I looked at the picture of their daughter. She must have used a pacifier, as she had one in her hand. Mrs. Johnson turned on a DVD. It was a 3D Barbie film. The story was about Barbie being a princess. It was so girlish and cute. I imagined thousands of girls stuck to the film imagining themselves in princess dresses and playing with Barbie dolls. The story wasn't that bad. In fact, I became engrossed in it. I snuggled up against Mrs. Johnson. After the film, she asked me if I snuggled with my parents when we saw films. I said no. I seen them alone and wore earphones so I would not disturb them. This must have shocked Mrs. Johnson because she said I was not a trophy or decoration. She asked me if I thought my parents loved me. They didn't spend time with me, or give hugs, or cuddle and see TV, play games, say goodnight. Okay. She went on and on what they did not do. I said they do love me, and Mr. Johnson asked how they show it. There was silence. Mrs. Johnson broke the silence by saying Mom has been trying to give me hugs when she picks me up. They both commented that this is nothing a parent should have a problem with. When Mom did pick me up, I noticed she was a bit uneasy giving me a hug. It was as if it was a chore for her. Wednesday, January 18th. Dear Diary, Mom found the pacifier in my pocket. I told her I never used it, and she got all upset saying she was worried about me. I tried to make her smile by snuggling with her while she seen the news. She was a bit surprised and asked if I was sick. She did not push me off, and to be honest, I felt like I was being a burden as she really did not want to do it. At bedtime, I tried to give Mom and Dad a goodnight hug, and again I shocked them as they asked, what got into me? Monday, January 23rd. Dear Diary, I was so happy when I came to the Johnsons, and was happy when we sat down to have some cookies and milk. I told them what happened at home, which must have confused Mrs. Johnson, as she did not understand why my parents considered me a burden. I have never thought about this myself. Over the last week, I have been thinking if they loved me, and started thinking I am just a burden. Tears came to my eyes at the thought. We stayed at the table and talked, but the idea my parents didn't love me made me so sad that tears were slowly going down my cheeks. Mrs. Johnson stood up and said not to worry. They loved me. She put the pacifier in my mouth and said that will take my troubles away. I did not spit it out. I do not know if it took away my problems, but it felt soothing. She said she wanted to fix my hair so it did not get in my eyes. I told her I asked Mom to take me to the hairdresser, but so far she was too busy. Mrs. Johnson said it would be a shame to cut such nice hair. Mom never said I had nice hair, and it was years since she brushed it. At the end, Mrs. Johnson was happy about her work. She put it in a ponytail and told me I look pretty. Pretty? Mr. Johnson said I reminded him of Hannah, which I found out was their daughter's name. When I asked why, they said it was time to see a DVD. They asked me what DVD I wanted to see, and I begged to see the Barbie one. When we started seeing the DVD, Mrs. Johnson gave me a gift. I explained that it was not my birthday. I was told sometimes it's good giving a present to someone you loved. I opened the present and nearly thought it was a joke when I saw it was a Barbie doll. I did not want to hurt their feelings, so I gave them a hug, and soon I was engrossed in the film. Tonight, Dad saw me holding the Barbie doll. He sighed and said I was one strange boy. He made it worse by saying my ponytail made me look like a sissy. I didn't even bother trying to give him a hug goodnight. I said I was going to bed. So you understand why I am in tears writing this? At least the pacifier stops me from screaming. Friday, January 27th. Dear Diary, it's Friday, and that means I do not get babysat tomorrow. That makes me a bit sad, as I look forward every day going to them. I know I don't write every day. I have no excuse. Today I told them that Dad does not like my hair in a ponytail, and he thinks I am a sissy. I said I did not like when he worried that I am not like the others. The older pair would not accept I was weird. They said I was sensitive, and in many ways like a girl. This was nearly too much for me, and I had tears in my eyes again. Mrs. Johnson gave me a hug and told me it was not an insult. She said I was like an angel put on this earth and I was a delicate flower. Then they went in a huge discussion that the perfect boy is like a girl, as it brings some special things out. I was confused as hell. Mrs. Johnson told me about daughter while she was brushing my hair. I loved when my hair was being brushed. Her daughter's name was Hannah, and she was a precious daughter that was sweet and happy. They loved her a lot, and were one great family. However, Hannah was killed when she was cycling. A man speeding to get to work on time drove her over. Silence. I could hear sniffing as she continued saying that I reminded her lot about Hannah. Hannah was teased a lot at school because she was most happy when she was treated like a baby. At the age of 10, she wore diapers, slept in a crib. In fact, everything a baby done. Mr. Johnson said that my parents do not appreciate that they have me. They do not love me. I know that him and his wife loves me. My hair was finished and they were put in pigtails, the same style as Hannah's picture. Mr. Johnson said enough of being serious, and he started tickling me so I fell to the floor. I hate being tickled as it is torture, but it was also nice laughing so much after such a serious talk. The problem is he would not stop tickling me, and I was squirming around the floor. I felt myself get wet, and before I could stop, I realized I just peed in my pants. I started crying, and Mr. Johnson said it was not my fault. It was his fault. Mrs. Johnson came and said she would help me change. I was embarrassed because she took off my wet clothes. She told me she was used to it. She then put on white panties with cute ladybugs and a ribbon. I gasped that I was wearing girl panties, but I also knew they did not have a son. She told me she only had a skirt, and did I want that? I said panties are fine. When Mom came, she did not think they were fine. She shouted why my hair was in pigtails and why the hell I was wearing panties. When Mrs. Johnson said that I wet myself, my mother exploded. I hid behind Mrs. Johnson as she explained that some children have accidents, and some boys even are little girls inside. Mom was now blowing steam. She asked if I am a baby sissy. Mrs. Johnson said, as she is my mother, she should know. Mom and Dad did not speak to me since. They did not even say goodnight. Saturday, January 27th. Dear Diary, today when I opened my school bag, I found a pack of panties. The Johnsons must have put them in my bag. Did they want me to wear panties? Mom came in and saw them on the bed. I was brushing my Barbie's head. Mom told me she had a long talk with my dad, and they have to respect that I liked the Barbie doll. She said even if I wet myself all the time, I would get as much help from them as possible. She brushed my hair as she said she was sorry for getting mad yesterday, but she was shocked when she seen me in panties and pigtails. Like a girl. After she brushed my hair, she held me in her arms. She said she never wanted me to grow, and if I was a sissy, she would enjoy being the mum of a princess. Why did people think I wanted to be a girl? I looked in the mirror and seen a small girl staring back. Was this the true me? I was confused, and yet so happy snuggling in Mom's arms while she talked about things that were not important. Do babies or do girls get more love than boys? Thursday, February 2nd. Dear Diary, I thought Mr. and Mrs. Johnson would be happy that Mom apologized and promised to help me, but they said it's because Mom is trying to be political correct, whatever that means. She said she could see that my mom was embarrassed with me. I wanted to shout no, but Mr. and Mrs. Johnson understood other adults, and I trusted them. Did my parents love me? They showed me their daughter's room. It was a nursery with a crib and changing table. There was also a dollhouse. I knelt down and started playing with it. This made the old couple happy as they said their daughter loved that dollhouse. I asked why was she a baby when she was the same age as me. Mrs. Johnson sat next to me and asked, was it nice when I wet myself by accident? I said it was embarrassing. She said that's because I was worried about what others would say. Hannah knew that little baby girls were spoiled and cared for. Baby girls do not care what others thought and just wanted to be loved and given attention. Hannah was most happy and secure when she was treated like a baby. She started wetting herself on purpose, and when she was put diapers, then she got the nursery and was treated like a baby. One day she wanted to be a 10-year-old again, and she asked to go for a bike ride. This was when an executive who was speeding because he was late for work drove their daughter over. It was sad seeing Mrs. Johnson wiping a tear, saying she was safe when she wanted to be a baby. Then she looked at me and said she could understand if I wanted to be a baby again, but she said my mom would never allow it, as she could not sacrifice the love and attention she gives to her work. I do not know why she thinks I want to be a baby. When Mom came, she asked if the Johnsons could take care of me on Saturday, as my parents had to work. Of course, they said they would love to. I gave my mom a quick hug and ran over to Mr. and Mrs. Johnson a long hug. This concludes part 1 of the story. Thank you for listening. If you want early access to the next part, consider supporting us on Patreon or joining our YouTube membership.